"They called me worthless," she confessed, but the cowboy said, "Then they never saw the fire in you." She learned the meaning of the word worthless long before she understood what it truly meant. It was not said once. It was said slowly over years in different voices. Sometimes it came as direct words. Sometimes it came as silence. Sometimes it came as looks that passed over her like she was not standing there at all. She grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, and that made it harder to disappear. Her home was a narrow house with peeling paint and a door that never closed properly. Inside, the air always felt heavy. Her parents were tired people. Life had worn them down early, and patience was not something they had much of. When she made mistakes, even small ones, they sighed like she was a burden they had not asked for. When she did something right, it was expected, never praised. At school, she was quiet. Teachers often forgot her name. When group work was assigned, other students avoided her table. She was not loud, not funny, not confident. She tried hard, but effort without confidence often looks like weakness to the world. Once, a teacher told her she should be realistic about her future. The class laughed softly, not cruelly, but enough. That sound stayed with her for years. By the time she became an adult, she no longer needed others to tell her who she was. She told herself. She believed she was someone who should not dream too big. Someone who should be grateful for whatever little space life allowed her. Someone meant to survive, not shine. That belief shaped every choice she made. She took a job at a small roadside diner because they did not ask many questions. The pay was low, the hours long, but it was steady. She wore the same uniform every day, washed and worn thin from years of use. She learned how to smile without showing much feeling, how to listen without speaking too much, how to move quickly so no one would complain. The diner sat near open land where fields stretched far and wide. Trucks passed often, carrying animals, tools, or hay. Cowboys stopped in sometimes, dusty and tired, ordering coffee before heading back out. She served them all the same way, politely, quietly, never meeting their eyes for long. Her life followed a simple pattern: wake up early, work, come home, eat something small, sleep, repeat. There were moments when she felt something stir inside her, usually late at night when the world was quiet. She wondered what it would feel like to be chosen for something, to be needed, to be seen. But those thoughts scared her more than comforted her. Wanting things had only ever brought disappointment, so she stopped wanting. One afternoon, the diner owner mentioned that a nearby ranch needed extra help for a few weeks. Nothing fancy, just cleaning, sorting supplies, helping where needed. The pay was slightly better than the diner. The owner spoke casually like it meant nothing. At first, she shook her head. New places meant new people meant new judgments. But that night, as she counted her bills at the small table in her kitchen, she realized how little room she had left to say no. The numbers did not lie, even if she wished they would. She sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, feeling that familiar mix of fear and resignation. She told herself it was temporary, just work, nothing more. The next morning, she drove out toward the ranch in an old car that rattled when it went over bumps. The road narrowed as she left town. Buildings faded into open land. The sky seemed larger out there, like it had more space to breathe. When she arrived, she almost turned around. The ranch was wide and quiet, stretching farther than she could see. Fences ran across the land like lines drawn by a steady hand. The smell of earth and animals filled the air. People moved with purpose, each knowing where they needed to be. She felt out of place immediately. A man met her near the main building. He was older than she expected, his face marked by sun and years of work. His clothes were simple, worn from use, not style. He did not smile wide or speak loudly. He simply nodded and asked her name. She said it softly, like she was not sure she was allowed to say it out loud. He showed her where to start. No long speech, no warning about mistakes, just simple instructions. As they walked, she noticed how he watched the land, not her. It was strange and oddly calming. Her first tasks were basic: cleaning tools, organizing storage, carrying supplies. She worked carefully, afraid to do something wrong. Every sound made her tense, expecting someone to call her out, to tell her she was slow or useless. But no one did. Hours passed. The sun moved higher, then lower. Her arms ached, her back burned, but she kept going. Hard work was something she understood. It was kindness she did not know how to handle. During a short break, she sat on a wooden step near the fence, drinking water and staring at the ground. She did not notice the cowboy approach until he spoke. "You work steady," he said. The words caught her off guard, not because they were loud, but because they were simple and honest. She shrugged. "I just do what I'm told." He nodded, like that answer made sense to him. He did not push further. He did not praise too much. He simply sat a short distance away, letting silence exist without discomfort. That alone felt different. As the days went on, she returned to the ranch again and again. The routine slowly changed. She was given slightly harder tasks, shown how to do things instead of just being told. When she made mistakes, they were corrected calmly, without anger or shame. Still, inside her, the old voice remained. "Don't get used to this. Don't believe it means anything. People always leave." One evening, after most of the work was done, she found herself repairing a loose section of fence with the cowboy. The sky was painted with soft colors and the air was cooler. Her hands moved automatically, but her mind wandered. Without planning to, she spoke. "They used to call me worthless," she said quietly, eyes fixed on the wire. She did not know why she said it. Maybe the silence felt safe. Maybe she was tired of carrying it alone. She waited for the usual response. An awkward pause, a change of subject, maybe even a laugh. Instead, the cowboy stopped working. He looked at her, then really looked at her, like he was seeing something beyond her tired clothes and careful posture. "Then they never saw the fire in you," he said. His voice was calm. No drama, no false comfort. The words hit her harder than any insult ever had. Fire. She almost laughed, but the sound stuck in her throat. Fire was for bold people, strong people, not someone who spent her life trying not to take up space. She shook her head. "You don't know me." He returned to the fence, tightening the wire. "I know enough," he said. "Fire doesn't always look loud." She did not respond. She could not. That night, lying in bed, his words repeated in her mind, not as a promise, not as hope, but as a question. What if she had been wrong about herself? The thought scared her more than the belief that she was worthless. Because if she was not worthless, then everything she had accepted might have been a lie. And that meant her life was not as small as she had been told. She turned toward the wall, heart beating faster than usual, knowing that something had shifted, even if she did not yet understand what it was. And for the first time in a very long time, she did not fall asleep feeling invisible. The next morning, she woke up earlier than usual. It was not because she needed to. It was because her mind would not rest. The cowboy's words from the night before stayed with her, repeating softly, like a quiet echo she could not shut out. She told herself they meant nothing. People said strange things sometimes. Words were easy. But even as she tried to dismiss them, a small, unfamiliar feeling sat in her chest. Curiosity. She got dressed slowly, tying her shoes with careful hands. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she saw the same tired face, the same guarded eyes. Nothing had changed, and yet something felt different inside, like a door had been unlocked without her permission. At the ranch, work began as usual. The land stretched wide under the early light, calm and steady. She focused on her tasks, moving from one job to the next. Still, she noticed things she had not before: how people trusted each other without many words, how mistakes were treated as part of learning, not proof of failure, how effort mattered more than perfection. The cowboy did not treat her differently after their conversation. He did not bring it up. He did not watch her closely. He simply worked alongside her when needed and left her space when not. That somehow made his words feel more real. He had not said them to impress her. He had said them because he believed them. That made her uncomfortable. When he asked her to help with something new, checking supplies and keeping track of tools, her first instinct was to refuse. This kind of responsibility always ended badly for her. Someone would realize she was not capable. Someone would get frustrated. She hesitated long enough that he noticed. "You can say no," he said calmly. She swallowed. "I might mess it up," he nodded. "Everyone does at first." There was no pressure in his voice, no expectation that she had to prove herself, just an offer. Against her better judgment, she said yes. The first few days were hard. She double-checked everything. She wrote notes, erased them, rewrote them. At night, she worried she had forgotten something important. Her old habits returned easily, apologizing too much, stepping back when others stepped forward, waiting for someone to tell her she had done wrong. But no one did. When she made a mistake, it was fixed, quietly, without anger, without blame. That confused her more than kindness ever had. One afternoon, she overheard two workers talking nearby. They were discussing plans, mentioning her name casually like she belonged there, like her presence mattered. She stood still, heart racing, unsure whether to feel proud or afraid. Belonging had always been dangerous. As days passed, she noticed small changes in herself. She spoke a little more. She asked questions instead of guessing. She stood straighter without realizing it. These changes scared her. She worried that if she reached too far, something would pull her back down. Her past had taught her that hope came with a cost. One evening, she stayed late to finish organizing supplies. The ranch was quiet, the sun already low. The cowboy returned to check on her, leaning against the doorway as she worked. "You don't have to stay this late," he said. "I know," she replied. "I just want to finish." He watched her for a moment. "You always try to finish everything alone." She froze slightly. No one had noticed that about her before. "I don't want to be in the way," she said. He shook his head. "You're not." The words felt too heavy. She set the box down and finally looked at him. "I don't understand why you're doing this," she said honestly. "Why you keep trusting me." He took a moment before answering. "Because I see how you work, and because I've seen people like you before." That made her uneasy. People like me? People who were told they were less until they started believing it. Her chest tightened. She crossed her arms, a habit she had learned young. "Believing it keeps things simple." "Simple isn't always true," he replied. She wanted to argue. She wanted to defend the walls she had built. They had protected her for years, but she had no energy left for pretending. "What if I fail?" she asked quietly. "Then you learn," he said. "That's not failure." No one had ever said that to her. That night she dreamed she was standing in an open field. The wind was strong, but she did not fall. When she woke up, her heart was still racing. The next week brought new challenges. A delivery went wrong. Supplies were delayed. People were stressed. In the middle of it all, she felt the old panic rise. This was where she usually disappeared, where she stayed silent and waited to be blamed. Instead, she spoke up. Her voice shook, but she offered a solution. A simple one. No one laughed. No one dismissed her. They listened. It worked. Afterward, she sat alone for a moment, hands trembling, trying to understand what had just happened. She had spoken, and the world had not ended. The cowboy passed by, giving her a small nod. No praise, no announcement, just recognition. That was enough. Still, her inner voice did not disappear overnight. Some days it was louder than others. Some days she felt like she was pretending to be someone stronger than she really was. But now there was another voice too, quiet, uncertain, but present. "Maybe I am more than they said." She did not fully believe it yet, but she no longer rejected it completely. One evening, as she walked back to her car, she stopped and looked at the land again. The sky was wide and open, the same as it had always been. But this time it did not make her feel small. It made her feel possible. She knew she was standing at the edge of something unfamiliar. Growth, change, risk. And for the first time, instead of turning away, she stayed right where she was. The change did not happen all at once. Some mornings she still woke up with the old heaviness in her chest. The feeling that told her to stay small, to expect disappointment, to prepare for being overlooked. Growth did not erase fear. It walked beside it. At the ranch, people continued to trust her with more tasks. Not big, dramatic ones, just small responsibilities that quietly mattered. Keeping records, making sure tools were returned, helping new workers understand routines. Each task added weight to her days, and with it came pressure. Pressure scared her. In the past, pressure meant mistakes, and mistakes meant blame. So she worked harder than anyone asked her to. She arrived early and left late. She checked her work again and again. When others laughed during breaks, she stayed busy, afraid that relaxing meant losing her place. The cowboy noticed. One afternoon, he found her reorganizing a shelf that was already neat. He leaned against the wall, watching quietly until she realized she was not alone. "You don't always have to prove you deserve to be here," he said. Her hands froze. "I'm not proving anything, I just want to do it right," he nodded slowly. "Doing it right doesn't mean doing it alone." That sentence stayed with her all day. Later that week, she made a mistake. A small one, but one that caused extra work for others. When she realized what had happened, her stomach dropped. The old panic rushed in, fast and familiar. Her mind filled with memories, faces turning cold, voices sharp with disappointment, doors closing quietly behind her. She waited for it, but it did not come. Instead, someone helped fix the problem. Another worker showed her how to avoid it next time. No one raised their voice. No one questioned her place there. Still, she felt shaken. That night she sat in her car long after work ended, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Why was she reacting like this? Why did one mistake feel like proof that she did not belong? Because part of her still believed it. She realized then that learning new skills was easier than unlearning old pain. The next few days were quiet. She spoke less again, retreating into herself. The people around her noticed, but they did not push. That space allowed her to think. She thought about her childhood, about how often she had been told to stay quiet, stay out of the way, stay realistic. She thought about how she had learned to measure her worth by how little trouble she caused. That lesson had kept her safe once, but now it was holding her back. One evening, as the sun dipped low and shadows stretched across the land, she found herself walking the fence line alone. The air was cool, the sky wide. She breathed slowly, trying to calm the noise inside her head. The cowboy joined her without a word. They walked side by side for a while before she spoke. "I still feel like I'm pretending," she admitted. "Like one day, everyone will realize I don't belong here." He did not answer right away. Then he said, "Belonging isn't about never doubting. It's about staying even when you do." She considered that. "What if I disappoint people?" she asked. "Then you'll be human," he replied. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Over the next weeks, the ranch faced longer days. Work piled up. Tension rose. People grew tired. In the middle of it all, she felt the weight of expectation pressing harder than before. This time, though, she did not shrink from it completely. She struggled. She hesitated. She doubted. But she stayed. One afternoon, a sudden problem forced everyone to think fast. Plans fell apart. People looked around, unsure what to do next. Her heart raced as she saw confusion spread. She almost stayed silent. Almost. Then she remembered every moment she had waited for someone else to speak. Every time she had given away her voice before using it. She swallowed, stepped forward, and shared an idea. It was not perfect, but it was clear. This time people responded immediately. They moved. They trusted her judgment. As everything settled, she stood off to the side, hands shaking, not from fear, but from the realization that she had acted without asking permission. That night, exhaustion pulled her into sleep quickly, but her dreams were restless. She saw herself standing in front of a crowd, unable to speak. Then slowly her voice returned. She woke with tears in her eyes, unsure why. Change, she was learning, could be painful too. There were days she wanted to quit. Days when the effort felt too heavy, when the safety of her old life tempted her. A life where nothing was expected and nothing could be lost. But there were also moments, small, quiet ones, that pulled her forward. A thank you said casually. A task completed without fear. A laugh she didn't hold back. She began to notice her reflection differently. Her shoulders were less tense, her eyes clearer. The tiredness was still there, but it no longer defined her. One afternoon, a new worker arrived, unsure and quiet, much like she had been. Without thinking, she stepped closer and offered help. She explained things patiently, remembered how confusing the early days felt. As she spoke, she realized something important. She was no longer standing at the edge. Later, the cowboy watched her from a distance, saying nothing. He did not need to. That evening, as she drove home, she thought about the word worthless, how heavy it had once been, how true it had felt. Now it felt unfamiliar, not gone, but weakened. She knew she was still afraid. She knew doubts would return. Healing was not a straight path, but she also knew this. She was not the person she had been when she first arrived. She had faced fear and stayed standing. And somewhere deep inside, the fire he had spoken of was no longer just a question. It was beginning to burn. The morning began like any other, calm and ordinary. The sky was light, the air quiet. She arrived at the ranch early, as she often did now, parking her car in the same spot. She sat for a moment before getting out, hands resting on the wheel, breathing slowly. There was a steady feeling inside her these days, not confidence exactly, but readiness. She stepped into the day, unaware that it would test everything she had been learning. By mid-morning, the weather began to change. Clouds gathered slowly at first, stretching across the sky like a warning written too softly to read. The wind picked up, not harsh but persistent. People noticed, exchanging looks, checking schedules, adjusting plans. She was inside one of the storage areas when someone called out that a sudden storm was expected earlier than planned. It was not dangerous, but it meant work had to be done quickly. Equipment needed to be secured, animals guided to safer areas, supplies moved under cover. The ranch shifted instantly from routine to urgency. Her heart beat faster, but she did not freeze. She listened carefully as instructions were called out. She watched where people moved. For the first time, she did not feel like she was in the way. She felt like part of the whole. Without waiting to be told, she began helping organize supplies, directing a few others toward tasks that needed attention. Her voice was steady, clear. She surprised herself. As the wind grew stronger, dust moved through the air. The sky darkened, not threatening but serious. Time mattered now. Everyone worked fast. At one point, confusion broke out near the storage sheds. A door had jammed. People gathered, talking over one another, losing precious minutes. She felt the familiar fear rise, the urge to step back, to let someone else take charge. But something stopped her. She remembered the quiet trust she had been given, the chances she had almost refused. The way her voice had mattered before. She stepped forward. "Try lifting from the side," she said, pointing. "If we move this first, the rest will follow." Her hands shook, but she did not pull them back. Someone followed her lead, then another. The door opened. The problem solved. She stood there for a moment, breath shallow, heart racing, not from fear now, but from realization. She was doing this. The work continued. She moved from place to place, helping where needed, answering questions, noticing small things others missed. Her mind was clear, focused. The noise inside her head, the doubt, the worry had gone quiet. Later, as the storm passed and the land settled again, exhaustion hit her all at once. Her legs felt heavy. Her arms ached. She leaned against a fence, closing her eyes briefly. That was when the weight of it all reached her. She had not just helped, she had led. The thought overwhelmed her. Her throat tightened. She turned away, embarrassed by the sudden emotion rising in her chest. The cowboy approached quietly as he always did. "You did good," he said simply. That was all. Something inside her broke open. She shook her head, trying to speak, but no words came. Tears filled her eyes, surprising her. She had cried alone many times in her life, quietly, where no one could see. This felt different. This felt like release. "I didn't think I could do that," she finally whispered. He looked at her calmly. "You did it." "I was scared," she admitted. "So was everyone," he replied. "You just didn't let it stop you." She wiped her face quickly, embarrassed. "I keep waiting for someone to tell me I don't belong here." He shook his head. "No one who belongs ever feels certain all the time." They stood there together, watching the land as the clouds began to move away. The air felt fresh, clean, like something had been cleared out. The rest of the day passed quietly. People laughed again. Work slowed. Normal life returned. But for her, nothing felt the same. She felt taller somehow, not physically but inside. That evening she stayed late, not because she felt she had to, but because she wanted to finish a few things properly. As she worked, she replayed the day in her mind. The choices she had made. The moments she had stepped forward instead of back. She realized something important. The fire was not loud. It did not announce itself. It did not ask for permission. It showed up when needed. Driving home that night, she noticed how the road felt familiar now. The open land no longer seemed intimidating. It felt like possibility. At home, she sat on the edge of her bed, shoes still on, staring at the floor. Her body was tired, but her mind was awake. She thought about all the years she had spent believing she was less, how easily she had accepted it, how many chances she had avoided because she was afraid of failing. She felt grief for that version of herself, but she also felt pride. The next few days brought quiet changes. People asked her opinions more often. New tasks came naturally. She noticed she no longer apologized for speaking. She listened, thought, and responded without shrinking. Still, doubt did not disappear completely. One afternoon, alone in the storage room, she caught herself hesitating before making a decision. The old voice tried to return. "What if you're wrong? What if this was just luck?" She paused, then smiled slightly. Even if she was wrong, she could fix it. Even if she failed, she would learn. That thought felt powerful. Later, as the sun set, she stood by the fence again, watching the light fade. The cowboy joined her, quiet as always. "I don't know how to explain it," she said softly, "but I feel different." "You are different," he replied. "Because you chose to be." She shook her head. "You helped me." "I only named what was already there," he said. "You did the rest." She believed him now. For the first time in her life, she was not waiting for someone else to define her worth. She was discovering it herself, through action, through courage, through staying present when fear told her to disappear. As night settled over the land, she felt something steady inside her chest. Not perfection, not certainty, but strength. And she knew that whatever came next, she would meet it standing, not hiding. The fire was no longer hidden. It was visible now, even to her. Life did not suddenly become perfect after that day. There were still long hours, still tired mornings, still moments when doubt whispered quietly, trying to return to its old place. But something important had changed. Doubt no longer ruled her. It was just a voice now, not the truth. She noticed the change in small ways at first. She woke up with purpose, not dread. She chose her clothes without overthinking. She walked into the ranch without shrinking her shoulders. When people greeted her, she met their eyes. When problems came up, she stayed instead of stepping back. The land felt familiar now, like it knew her. The fences, the buildings, the open sky, they no longer felt like something she was borrowing. They felt like something she belonged to. One morning, a new worker arrived, nervous and unsure. She saw herself in that hesitation, in the way the person stood slightly apart from the others. Without being asked, she walked over and explained how things worked. Her voice was calm, patient, steady. As she spoke, she realized she was not pretending. She was capable. That realization settled deep inside her, warm and grounding. The cowboy continued to treat her the same way he always had. He did not praise her more. He did not act proud. He simply trusted her. That trust mattered more than applause ever could. One afternoon, as they worked side by side, she finally spoke the thought that had been growing inside her. "I think I spent most of my life waiting for someone to tell me I was allowed to matter," she said. He nodded. "Most people do," she paused. "What if they never do?" "Then you decide for yourself," he replied. That sentence stayed with her. In the weeks that followed, she began making choices she would have avoided before. She spoke up when something didn't feel right. She said no when she needed rest. She said yes when opportunities came, not because she felt pressured but because she wanted to try. Failure still scared her, but it no longer stopped her. One evening, she returned to the diner where she used to work. She stopped by to say goodbye properly. The place looked smaller than she remembered. The walls felt closer, the noise louder. People greeted her kindly enough, but she noticed something strange. She did not feel small there anymore. As she walked out, she felt no anger, no bitterness, just understanding. That place had been part of her survival, but it was not her future. Driving back, she realized she was no longer running from who she used to be. She was honoring her past without letting it define her. That was new. At home, she made changes slowly. She cleaned out old things she no longer needed, notes that reminded her of harsh words, objects tied to painful memories. She kept some, not to hurt herself but to remember how far she had come. One night, sitting alone, she thought about the word that once shaped her life, worthless. She said it out loud, testing it. It sounded empty now, weak, it no longer fit. She smiled softly, surprised by her own calm. At the ranch, life continued. Seasons shifted, work changed. But she remained steady. People relied on her, trusted her, learned from her. One day, a difficult decision had to be made, something that affected the whole team. In the past, she would have stayed silent even if she had thoughts. This time, she spoke clearly. She shared her reasoning. She listened to others. Together, they decided. Later, alone, she felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, and she held it. She did not crumble. She did not hide. She carried it. That night, she walked the familiar path along the fence, the same one where she had once doubted everything. The sky was full of stars. The land was quiet. The cowboy joined her as he often did. "You're not the same person who came here," he said. "No," she agreed. "But I'm still me." He smiled slightly. "That's the point." She thought about that long after he left. She had not become someone else. She had not erased her pain or rewritten her past. She had simply stopped letting it decide her future. That understanding felt powerful. Months passed. Her confidence deepened, not loudly but steadily. She did not seek approval anymore. She valued effort, honesty, growth. She forgave herself when she fell short. Some days were harder than others. Healing was not a straight line. But even on the hardest days, she did not return to the belief that she was nothing. She knew better now. One morning, standing in the early light, she caught her reflection in a window. She saw strength there, not dramatic, not perfect, but real. She remembered the girl who believed survival was all she deserved. She whispered softly, "You were wrong," not cruelly, kindly, because that girl had done her best with what she knew, and now she knew more. As she walked out into the day, she felt no need to prove herself. No need to hide. No need to wait for permission. She had already chosen herself. The fire inside her did not burn wildly. It did not consume. It warmed. It guided. It endured. And that was enough. For the first time in her life, she was not defined by what others had said she was. She was defined by what she had become. And she walked forward, steady and unafraid, into a life she now knew, without question, she deserved.